This is about the need to build a short road to a remote and impoverished village in northern Laos. The Road to Na Lin. But first a bit of background. This is Laos, landlocked in the middle of Southeast Asia. And this is where Na Lin is, about 3 hours south of the former royal capital, Luang Prabang, and a few kilometers inland from the Mekong River. The Mekong, one of the world's great rivers. It rises on the Tibetan plateau and travels almost 5,000 kilometers down through Southeast Asia, including Laos, and on to the sea. For generations, it's been a water highway and a lifeline for thousands of people living in remote and otherwise inaccessible areas close to the river. With a small population, in Asian terms, of only 6 million, sandwiched between much larger and more powerful neighbours and covered for a large part by mountainous jungle terrain, Laos is among the world's poorest countries, with over 75% of the population earning less than $2 a day. Larger centres like the former royal capital and World Heritage Site, Luang Prabang, have become attractive tourist destinations, with numbers of visitors increasing almost exponentially. Luang Prabang's attractions centre on the 33 dramatic and beautiful wats, or Buddhist temples, sprinkled throughout the city. But while Luang Prabang may be growing and prospering with a newfound source of revenue in tourism, for people living and working in the countryside, not far from these centres, mainly as subsistence rice farmers, life is not easy. Just 3 hours by boat down the Mekong from Luang Prabang is the small village of Hat Sai Kam. And just 5 kilometres inland from Hat Sai Kam is the village of Na Lin, set in a beautiful valley amongst the trees just beyond the rice paddies in the foreground of this picture. But it's a hell of a 5 kilometres to get there. It took us close to 40 minutes to cover the distance, with lots of shoving in deep mud. And when a road like this is the only connection to the outside world, then living in a beautiful landscape loses a lot of its charm. With no guarantee of prosperity, enough food, good health, decent sanitation, or a proper education, the people of Na Lin are poor, desperately poor. It was a Saturday when we arrived, and most of the villagers were out in the rice paddies working. And as we arrived, so did the rain. We'd been invited to visit Na Lin by Chan T, a young waiter we'd met in Luang Prabang, where we'd been working for 6 months and whom we'd been helping with his English. After the rain, he showed us around more of the village, including his old primary school, now derelict, the local monastery, which has 1 monk and 2 novices, the house where he was born, also now derelict, the rice paddies his parents work in, the local stream, which is the village water supply, and until recently the only source of electricity for the village, from $40 mini turbines like this, each one pushing out enough power for 3 light bulbs. In the evening, other villagers gathered with us and Chanti's parents to celebrate a basi, a Lao ceremony in which strings are tied around your wrists to link to and call in the spirits of the netherworld. On the following day, we were back on the road again, heading for the Mekong for our return to Luang Prabang. But even before we waved goodbye to Chanti's parents, we were already pondering what we could do for Na Lin. We've seen scores of villages even worse off than Na Lin all over South and Southeast Asia, without proper sanitation, decent water or electricity, people struggling to make a living, to grow food, collect firewood, and just trying to create better opportunities for their children than they had. All of these villages could do with a hand, but now we knew about Na Lin. And we just thought, let's try and build them a proper road to the highway of the Mekong River, a relatively small project that would make a huge difference to their lives. Trouble is, we're just a couple of journalists without any experience in this sort of thing. But we've worked in and knocked around Asia a lot over the past 40 years, and we know what to expect. We also know this is a project we can do. There's no doubt we're going to need help. We need a surveyor and an engineer, both hopefully with experience in road building in the tropics. We've got people who can come up with the right equipment in Laos, and we've got fundraising plans underway. Initial local estimates suggest it could be done for around $60,000. We're registering as a non-profit charitable organisation, and we're building a website, theroadtonalin.com. Overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity, it is an act of justice. For our motivation on this project, it's been hard to go past Nelson Mandela. It is the protection of a fundamental human right, the right to dignity and a decent life. While poverty exists, there is no true freedom. Join us on the Road to Na Lin.